sun is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. I'm your host, Sean Big Poppa Williams, here, as always, with Jimmie Liehr and Adrian Woodruff. We've got all your action from the Pure Michigan 400 from Michigan International Speedway.
Yeah, Michigan is it's really hard to drive 2-mile racetrack based in the Irish Hills of Michigan. This track is going to place a high demand on equipment as the drivers are going over 200 miles an hour through the corner too wide.
Interesting fact here about Michigan is that there have been 94 total races since 1969. The winner of the race has started outside the top 10 25 times, which is only 26% of all the total races. Greg Biffle has won 4 times here total. Of those wins coming outside of those wins are back-to-back in 04 and 05 and 2013 and 2014, with all of those wins coming outside of the top 10, with his highest starting position being 13th. Another interesting fact here is the pole winner has gone 1-1 3 out of the last 4 races here.
Yep, and guys, we have a sketchy weather situation this weekend with 60% chance of thunderstorms Sunday for race time. Hopefully we'll be able to get a full race in, good green flag racing action. Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the NBC Sports Networks. Last week, boys, we had a monster fantasy week, making some good money. Liehr, Adrian, and I, all three were running at the qualifier. We were all running at various contests to take them down. We ended up making some good money. Hopefully we can parlay that into another solid week as Adrian spent some of his money on NASCAR diecast. So let's get into the picks, guys. It's time for the Burning Rubber segment. Liehr?
Burning Rubber, baby, from the Irish Hills.
Adrian, who do you got to burn some rubber for us this week, brother?
Man, let's give a shout out to Liehr. That was way better than the first Michigan race this year. I'm loving it. All right, guys, let's get into the action this week. My Burning Rubber pick is someone that I haven't picked all year. I don't think I've picked this guy since I've been on this show. Maybe only for a going to the garage pick. But I'm going to roll with the number 41 of Kurt Busch, guys. He may not necessarily be on, but, starting from the 19th position, it's just something that just pops out to me when I'm looking at the starting lineup. You have a driver of Kurt's caliber, and as fast as he's been at these big, long tracks where there's just a lot of, demand, I just think this is a track that, it's a time of the season that really benefits Kurt. He's really got nothing to lose. He's just going to go out here starting from the 19th position. Starting from the 19th position, they're going to have to use strategy to try to get to the front. So I think that's automatically going to trigger them to maybe be on a different fuel strategy that may help Kurt lead some laps. And I think he's going to get to the front pretty quickly. And honestly, at his price point of 9,100, all he needs to do is finish inside the top 10, top 8. And he really pays off his salary really, really well. You're going to have over a 45-point day if he does something like that. It just seems like a good situation for Kurt. The Chevys have just been so fast this year. Well, I won't say this year. I'll say this weekend. With 8 of them in the top 12 in the final round of qualifying. Kurt has 3 Michigan wins. He has laps of the last 7 races at Michigan. And let's be honest, in 25 races so far in 2016, he's put that number 41 in the top 10 in 25 of those, right? In those 25 races, he's put it in the top 10 in 19 races. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty impressive clip. So only 6 times. And, you got to think about the restrictor plates and the road courses are also thrown in there too, and they probably account for a lot of those where he didn't finish inside the top 10. It just seems like an easy play for me. At 9,100, I just think he's way underpriced and he underqualified. And to me, that's where you want to play guys. When you see that they're in a situation where they're underpriced and they underqualified, it's just a perfect storm for Kurt to move up to the field. And when you have guys like Sean and Jamie are going to talk about here in a second, that you can pair with Kurt Busch, and he's there. We think those guys are going to lead the laps, and Kurt can come from the back of the pack. It just seems like really, really easy play to me. It could be too chalk, but he's someone that I'm going to be playing in probably over 80% of my lineups. All about some KB this week in the number 41 Monster Energy Haas on it.
Yeah, as far as that goes, man, Kurt Busch is definitely going to be a good play this week because he's got the potential. He's got all those variables available to him for place differential and then also for a chance to get a win. As we saw last week, Kevin Harvick came up through the field from where he started at in the 20th, back in the 20s. And, he was definitely the top dog as far as the play last week. And this is kind of the same situation. Now, we don't have as many, opportunity for laps led here with, basically cutting the amount of laps, by almost half. But, with 200 laps up for laps led and fastest laps, and especially if he gets up and goes through the field, he definitely has a good chance to gain some of those fastest laps and laps led points. But as far as that goes, definitely $9,100 is good value for Kurt Busch. And also, too, think about it from last week coming out of that wreck that he had. He's going to have some motivation to come back this week and get back into the limelight. And he's only got one win this year. So he's definitely one of those types of drivers that he always likes to prove himself. But also he's one of those guys that you really have to have at least some exposure to because there's always that chance that Kurt Busch is going to be the play of the week. I'm not going to rehash all the stats for you. Only thing that really scares me, though, is out of his 31 starts, he's got 8 DNFs here at Michigan, which obviously that can happen to anybody. And they're all, about 50% of them are from crashes. The other 50% are mechanical, due to equipment malfunctions. But, I'm right there with you. I'm going to have exposure to Kurt Busch. I'm not going to be, 80% on Kurt Busch this week. I just got other drivers that I like more. But I'm definitely going to have that exposure to Kurt.
Yeah, man.
Kurt
I'm
Busch.
really deep on Kurt Busch this week. I'm with Adrian on this. I wanted to make him one of the value plays. That's how much I think he's undervalued this week and underpriced on DraftKings. I think when you throw out the terrible Phoenix Racing Team experiment, it looks amazing. Even with the couple of random DNFs, I'm not too worried about it. I think ownership percentage is going to be driven down low this week because of the wreck and him messing up people's lineups last week. In NASCAR, we've usually seen ownerships fall when that happens, and so you might be able to get a really good driver. There's a lot of he's the non-chalk of the chalk in that area, and I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit more without getting into too much of it here. But basically, dude, Kurt is the play. I love it. Adrian's all over it. Liehr, who do you have for us to burn some rubber this week, bud?
All right, guys. By the way, just glad to be back again this week for another episode of the Burn and Rubber Show. I enjoy doing this every single week, and especially coming off of a week that we had last week, it makes it really fun. So I hope you guys are enjoying it out there. But I'm going to go with somebody that we really haven't talked about in quite some time. A little disappointing because this is one of the main staple drivers in the NASCAR Sprint Cup circuit. But I'm going to go with Jimmie Johnson this week. Jimmie and the number 48 team has not been doing well over the past 10 races, with only 2 of those, being decent finishes in basic reality of NASCAR, and then also in fantasy NASCAR. He did have a good fantasy week last week at Bristol. You can see that hopefully that momentum has started off well for him this week because he did qualify second and also had the second fastest practice in the first practice. So some good signs there. But with this week's aero package, we didn't really talk about that yet, but they're laying out the new aero package, basically cutting down on the spoilers an inch, and then also not as big of a front scoop that they have on these things. I'm sorry, not scoop, but a splitter, front splitter that they have on the cars. So it's going to put more emphasis back on the drivers to be more efficient as far as the vehicles go. So, but like I said, he's got 29 starts, 1 win here, and that came back just a couple years ago, 2014, with 5 top 5s and 11 top 10s. The best part about Jimmie this week is his cost, guys. It's just, I was just blown away when I saw how much he cost this week because it's ridiculously low on these oval tracks. But $9,300 for Jimmie Johnson this week. With his experience and his equipment, I mean, that it should be a no-brainer. The only other time that he was cheaper was just a couple weeks ago, and that was at Watkins Glen, which is a road course. So, but this is kind of close to the 1.5 mile tracks that we run on the Sprint Cup circuit, with this being a D-shaped 2-mile track. And he excels at these types of tracks. So I will be honest, with his track history here, it's not the best. He's got an average start of 9.7 and an average finish of 16.8. But I think Chad and Jimmie and the number 48 team gained some major positive momentum from last week. And going into the chase with only 3 races left, they're looking to make sure that they've got some good momentum and good chemistry going into the Sprint Cup chase. So obviously, they want to win another championship. And I think it starts this week, fellas. It starts this week with that second place starting position. And then also, with this being an oval-shaped track, this is Jimmie's specialty here, boys. And being $9,300 and all those other variables, I think Jimmie's going to take it home this weekend and get the win. And I definitely think that everybody out there needs to have him on their teams. If you're not truly a believer in Jimmie, that's okay. But I'm just telling you right now, you're going to have some exposure to Jimmie Johnson.
Right. Okay, Liehr, I love where your head's at, because I understand that you're wanting to go after Jimmie here, and I understand why. The problem is we've been to this dance before with Hendrick this year, and they've just been off like most of the season, and every time we get tempted by the fact, oh, look at how fast they are in qualifying in practice 1, then they get destroyed when they get out of qualifying trim. And I'm not sure I can be on the Jimmie Johnson train this week, or on the Hendricks train for that matter. Like, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? Like, come on, man. Like, or wait, I did that backwards. But whatever, you know the point. Like, I'm trying to get at. I don't think I want to own Jimmie Johnson.
It's got to be your bull.
Yeah, it's got to be your bull. All right, Adrian, your thoughts? Do you have anything to add? I like the Jimmie Johnson play, but man, I've just been done wrong by Hendrick so much this year.
The thing is the Chevys are really fat. Talked about that, and that's one of the reasons I really like Kurt Busch. But I mean, come on, starting second. You really think that Jimmie Johnson is just? Well, I can't really say that in such a sarcastic tone, because Jimmie is probably couldn't lead laps, but I just don't think there's any way that once those Toyotas who qualify bad get to the front, I don't see that 48 holding on for very long. He just doesn't really have any potential unless he's going to lead laps. And the thing is, if you think that he's going to lead laps, that means that you think that their entire summer and everything that's leading up to this, since Jimmie's had his last win 17 races ago, you got to believe that all that's gone and they're on a fresh sheet of paper. And honestly, I don't see it yet, because I mean, he hasn't proven it to me. But I mean, he could prove it this weekend, and Chase was fast last time we were at Michigan. And the Hendrick cars always bring a good horsepower package to Michigan. But the problem with Jimmie this week is just the fact that he's starting second. Everyone's going to be on him because he's right there. But the thing is, if you are picking Jimmie, I don't think you could pick Jimmie and Joey Logano together, because that's you saying that you don't want any place differential from your top tier drivers, and that you're going to leave Mark Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth and all those guys that are starting outside the top 10. That means you're just going to leave all of them off to play Jimmie and hope that he leads laps when all these guys got guaranteed place differential. I mean, I just don't really see it. I'm going to have some Jimmie exposure, but you're not fooling me, Jimmie.
Fair enough. And a guy that, I don't think we have to worry about fooling any of us is my burner rubber pick in Joey Bag of Donuts Logano. They gave him that nickname, so I just roll with it. I love it. The Bag of Donuts. All right. At $10,400, he is super expensive, guys. I understand that. But he was really fast in practice, and he's sitting on the pole. The last time he sat on the pole at Michigan, he went 1-1, and he's done that twice, including doing it back here in June, while leading 138 of the 200 laps. If you didn't have Joey Bag of Donuts on your lineup in the spring, you weren't anywhere near the cash. Guys, it is very, very possible that he does it again. I would strongly recommend, even though it's the chalk of chalk, majority of your lineup should be built around Joey Logano. That's what I'm doing this week, and you'll be able to see that in all the contests. I also like his teammate Keselowski. I think it's a dynamic play with him qualifying 15th. I know that he's expensive at $10,200, but I think that will drive down his ownership percentage. I'm thinking, and this is just conjecture, but I think the number of teams that will have Joey and Keselowski on them together will be sub 3% in any tournament. I just don't think that people are going to pay in that direction for those Penske cars. There's a lot of other names around there that are sexy as well. And if you're looking to get on an island from an ownership perspective, get on Keselowski. You might as well just pay that extra little bit of salary and pair Keselowski with Logano. But guys, I have Logano going 1-1. What do you guys have him doing?
Yeah, okay, so I'm really, really excited about the Joey Logano play. So I'm going to start with covering the Keselowski play. I told Poppa that he had to play, talk about this guy in the Logano play because I just feel that strongly about the guy. He's starting in the 18th position or something like that. And he's back home in Michigan. And if you talk to Brad, you ask him what race and he's done plenty of interviews because Brad's one of the most available drivers in the Sprint Cup Series for media and stuff like that. So he's been asked plenty of times, what's the next track that you want to win at? He says, I got to win at Michigan. It's my home track. So I'm really liking the Brad Keselowski play. I think those Penske boys are going to bring some speed this weekend. But boy, oh boy, Mr. Joey Logano, here we have it. Here we have it again. Joey Logano on the pole at Michigan. It seems like we've seen this story before. For my lineup sake, hopefully the story plays out the same way. But I just don't see that clean air in the first pit stall is just so important in the guaranteed lap sled fastest laps. And if it doesn't rain on Sunday and we don't have a competition caution, who knows how long green flag this race can go because it's such a wide open track. But I love the Joey Logano play so much. I think that if you're not playing Joey Logano, you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, this guy is the chalk of all chalk. If you're playing cash, you have to play Joey Logano and just worry about your other guys down the line because those lap sled points that he's going to rack up for you, even if he loses the lead, that number 22 team is going to get him back out into the lead. Todd Gordon's going to make a pit call that's going to, and they're going to be hungry to get another win. They don't want to just start first. They want to win the race too. 3 of the last 4 winners at Michigan, like Jamie said, have came from the pole. Let's make it 4 out of 5, Mr. Joey. I see him going to victory lane. I called Kevin Harvick last week. Let's do the 22 in victory lane this week.
Where?
All I can think about when you guys are talking about he's on the pole is the Talladega Nights where they were talking about the gay driver on the pole and it has nothing to do with his sexual orientation. As far as Joey Logano, I definitely like the Joey Logano play too. I know you're like, okay, Liehr, well, how can you like Jimmie Johnson? How can you like Joey Logano? Well, I mean, I'm going to have multiple lineups, so I'm going to have exposure to all these guys. But Joey Logano, definitely the history here, with him at Michigan, he's definitely a play that somebody you have to have. The other crazy part, too, is when he won back in 2013, he went 1-1 as well. So the only wins that he has here at Michigan, he went 1-1. But with this track, I mean, anything could go. I mean, we could have, like you said, it could be long green flag racing with hardly any cautions. And we could have some, green pit stops. It could be, up to 10 cautions because the restarts here are so crazy because this track is so wide and these guys can get 3-4 wide. And all it takes is just that, just that little bit of air or, somebody's nose getting into your quarter.
Yeah, that group in the one there was pretty quick.
Yeah, and I mean, anything can really happen here at the restart. So, but I definitely like the Joey Logano play. Little bit pricey for my liking, but I mean, DraftKings prices them the way that they think they need to be priced. So, I think that'll actually make his ownership percentage go down just a tad. But he's still going to be heavily owned because I think a lot of people will also like Logano. But as far as the Penske boys here and Brad Keselowski, I love Brad Keselowski. He's actually one of the drivers that I do like besides Martin Truex Jr. But he does need a win here. He's only got 14 starts, but out of those 14 starts, he's got 11 top 5 finishes. So it's crazy. I'm not top 5 finishes, but top 10 finishes. But with him starting 18, he definitely has that chance to win, but also get that place differential that you need too. And I'm right there with Poppa. It is definitely going to be, I think, unique, except for our listeners who are probably going to do it. But I think it is overall in the whole NASCAR DFS community. I don't think a lot of people will pair the Penske boys together with Keselowski and Logano, and that might be the separator for you. So, but I definitely have some love for both of those guys this weekend.
All right, guys, as you can see, there's a lot of money to be spent this weekend on a lot of the sexy drivers. And we haven't even gotten into like some of the other guys we like. I'll parlay that into my value play here coming up. For those of you that are worried that I might not be talking about some of my JGR boys. But anyways, Adrian, who do you have for us for some value today? Oh, looks like he's going with Sticky Ricky.
Yeah, I'm going to be rolling with Mr. Ricky Too Quick. Looking to build some zestfully clean lineups this weekend in the Irish Hills. There's a scent of Zest soap called Irish Springs, and they're racing in the Irish Hills in the Zest car. Why should Ricky Stenhouse not finish in the top 10? Don't worry, I have better logic than that. He has top 12 finishes in 3 of the last 5 weeks in 26. So, I mean, that team is really producing, and they're really, kind of hitting a peak performance where everyone thought he was really running well at the start of the year, and they kind of fell off a little bit. Trust me, they're back. And just from talking to some of the people that I know at Roush Fenway Racing, they're bringing some of their best stuff to the racetrack here these next couple of weeks. And you've noticed that with Chris Gain. He's reaping some of the rewards. Ricky finishing second last weekend at Bristol was also a pretty good sign. That Roush Fenway are bringing some really fast race cars to the track. Barring disaster, I just don't see that Ricky doesn't finish inside the top 15. This is a track that Ricky actually kind of likes, but the problem is Roush just hasn't had the speed over the past few years to bring the car for Ricky that he wants. He said in his interview after qualifying that they're gonna focus really hard on Saturday, have some good practice sessions, and pass a lot of cars on Sunday. And look forward to him doing that because I think Ricky can really get it done. I think his ownership might be a little high because he finished second last week and had a massive 73-point day called by Mr. Jimmie Liehr. But yeah, Ricky Stenhouse just kind of seems like the chalk starting from the 29th position. His cost is only at 6,700. He's below 7K, and last week he scored 74 points. I mean, that's going to raise his ownership up. But I just got to think that Ricky Stenhouse is play you want if you're just plugging away. And he's going to have fast pit stops like we said last weekend with, you got Corey Baldwin and the guys, Mike Lingerfeld and Ryan McRae. Those guys really know how to get that 17 car back on the track and ready to roll. So I hope they do because I have so many on that race. Stenhouse is my value for really good value play.
Liehr?
No, I'm right there with you, AW. I think with his momentum that he got last week with that second place finish, that whole entire camp is got to be ecstatic right now. The other crazy part too is, do I really think he's going to get a win? No, but with his starting position, and his price point at $6,700, there's not much more value that you can get better than Stenhouse starting in a 29th position. I mean, that's as close as the 30th as you're going to get. And that we have about 10 cars, every week that are just kind of like, cars every week. And he's right there at the edge of that. And with everything that he's been going through the last, since last week and the beginning of the season, he's had the ups and the downs. And now he's trending towards, back up again. And we've got 3 races left before the chase. He's sitting 19th in the standings right now in the Sprint Cup chase standings. So he's got some things that he wants to accomplish here. And if he wants to get into that chase, I think him and the 17 team are going to make whatever they can to get into that chase as possible. And it starts, again, this weekend. Every week is a new week. Even though he finished second last week, that's going to build great momentum and enthusiasm throughout the team. But he's going to look at it from, hey, this is a new week. I've got to bring it again. And I really think that, he's got some really good history here, too. He's only got 7 starts here, but he's got 0 DNF, fellas, and he's got a 99.6% laps completed here, which has been kind of different compared to other tracks that we race on the circuit. But I definitely think Ricky's got at least a top 20 finish, if not a top 10 finish within him again this weekend. And at $6,700, yeah, I'm definitely playing some Ricky Stenhouse this week. Yeah, and I'm going to get clean.
Sticky Ricky is the free square in my opinion. Like, he's too cheap.
Yeah.
Just like, especially off of last.
No, he's not sticky this weekend. He's got zest on the car. He's clean this week.
Yeah, he's clean this week.
Whatever you want to call it, like, the guy's the right play. Like, that's all there is to it. My only concern is that the ownership's going to be too high. But like I said, there's other ways to get different by using him this week. I wouldn't be afraid of it. But
just real quick, What do you guys think percentage wise? What's it going to be in a GPP?
40%.
30. I'll take 30. It'll be it'll probably be 35 then.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be over 30.
It'll land right in between the two.
Yeah, it'll probably 30. I'm going to guess 35%, right in between me and Poppa said.
All right, Liehr, who do you got for value, buddy?
All right, boys. I'm actually going to be going pretty deep into the well this week for our driver for value as far as my play this week. By the way, The Truth, thank you very much for making my word come to fruition last week and proving all these other guys wrong. And thank you very much. I know you didn't have to have him to win a GPP last week, but I did take him starting from the 12th position. I was told that I was smoking crack, and he finished 5th. But value play this week, I'm going with.
I almost think you did have to have him to win a GPP. You nailed it.
Well, he actually, the guys that won, you didn't have to have him, but he finished with, I think it was like a 48 or almost a 50 point day.
There were other ways to get there, but the optimal lineup had him on it though.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. But I'm going to be rolling with another guy that we don't really talk about too often here on this show, but Michael McDowell in the number 95 Levine Family Racing Chevy. Does not have a ton of experience here at Michigan with only 5 races under his belt. His last start here at Michigan, crazy enough, was 2013, so he didn't race here the last couple of years. There are a few factors here why I am choosing him as my value play this week. His cost is usually under that $6K price point, but he's even discounted just a tad bit more this week at $5,400. The other factor here is that he's starting 35th. In my opinion, there's no way he's going to be, going back unless some extenuating circumstance takes place and he goes out in the last position. But he can only gain positive points from starting. Now, do I think he's going to score a top 15? I mean, it's a possibility. But the reality is that he will definitely finish, hopefully, with a top 25 finish. The only thing that kind of scares me just a tad bit here is that the 4 out of the 5 races that he's raced here at Michigan, he's either had he's had equipment issues, which that is out of his control. But the real big benefit here is that he's going to have a real low ownership percentage, and I think he's got a great shot to at least score 30 points, if not more. Which all I'm striving for out of my value play, is just that 30 points, and everything above that is just gravy. If there basically are not too many wrecks here, so that could wean out a couple guys that get behind him back there in the late 30s. But I think he'll have a good fantasy finish this week, boys, and I'm definitely rooting for Michael McDowell in the number 95, and I may have consulted the Oracle on this one, and the Oracle hasn't let me down, so I'm definitely rolling with it. I'm not going to be 100% exposed on Michael McDowell, but if I have places and spots where I need to plug somebody in that's not going to cost a lot of money, Michael McDowell is going to be my play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Michael McDowell, but dude, you kind of made the argument for why you shouldn't play him either. All these drivers are in the same boat, right? They're all just crapshoots, that you're taking. It's an educated crapshoot. But my problem is he's not even at the track. He's not the one that qualified in that car. He's out racing the Xfinity Series. So a guy that has limited exposure at this track is just going to have to hop into it without 0 practice laps, without qualifying. Dude, I love you, bro, but there are just, and I love the Oracle. The Oracle's awesome, but there are just better plays this week, especially in the value range. And I can't do it. Adrian?
I mean, Poppa exactly nailed what I was going to say. The problem with Michael McDowell is simply that he hasn't ran a lap. Okay, so get this. Sunday, when they line up for the Pure Michigan 400 and they take the green flag, that will be, when they take lap 1, that will be first lap Michael McDowell has completed at Michigan in the past 3 years. I'm sorry, guys, but Michigan's a pretty tough track, and learning the grooves of that track, and even the guys that practice all weekend, they still don't learn how to race this track by Sunday. And it's just a situation that I'm really kind of leaning towards. I don't know if DraftKings is going to start him from the 35th position since he didn't qualify that car, and they'll be starting last. So, it's going to be a wait and see kind of thing. We're about to get to my number one target when you're, really at the bottom of the barrel here right now, actually, Poppa. You want to tell him?
Yeah, I mean, that actually transitions us well, perfectly into the Annett play. Like, that's my value play at 4,800. All right, first, guys, the reason why I'm on Annett is the same reason why I believe Liehr is on McDowell, right? When you're looking at the lineups, there's going to be places that you want to punt down and save value, and I understand the need, for the value. What you're hoping to get, if the math equation works right, is you're wanting to get 25 plus out of your value punt. If you can do that, you should be golden as long as your top drivers perform at the level that mathematically you have them performing at. Now, the reason why I like Annett is he saves me even more money over a McDowell play, and he's the guy that's out there running the track all weekend. And I think that the real argument here is that we've seen from him in the past that he is one of the better drivers of staying out of the crap and being able to finish through, getting that 25 points. He's basically like the safest, in my opinion, of the unsafe drivers. So when I'm thinking about why I need to punt this weekend, I'm thinking about it specifically because the drivers we've already covered, like Joey, Keselowski, I think that what you're going to have to do to win this week, and Kurt, is you're going to have to pair them with whichever JGR car is going to do the most damage. Now, that could easily be Edwards if he can get up there and lead some laps, qualifying in the 9th spot at 9,500. I like him this weekend. I also like Truex. He's qualified too low, as well as Kyle Busch and Kenseth. Any one of those three cars could be the place differential car that you have to own this week. And since they all grossly underqualified, I think you're going to have to pair them with the race leader in Logano, and you're going to have to get cute with another one of the place differential guys, with Kurt Busch or some of the other guys we've talked about. And I think that's what's going to take down a GPP this week, guys, is going to be that with the right punt that gets you that 25 to 35 points that you're looking for. Just quick heads up, since I am talking about the punts, I'm not afraid to play Cole Witt or Josh Wise this week, even though, but your main concern there is that their engine doesn't make the length of the race, right? But who I would not play if you're going to punt at all is Jeffrey Earnhardt, as he already wrecked his main car. He's in a backup car. They couldn't even get the backup car ready for qualifying. Fade. It's the easiest fade in the world. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, those guys are definitely working hard, and props to them they'll have that car ready to practice tomorrow for Jeffrey Earnhardt, I'm sure. But the reason that we're playing Michael Annett here, guys, is because it's a caliber team where his teammate and Clint Boyer is qualified in the 27 hole. Clint's not been having the best season, but Michael Annett is Clint's teammate, and he has Clint to bounce notes off of. These other guys, like Cole Witt and Reed Sorensen and Josh Wise, they don't have teammates to bounce notes off of. Also, H has a little more resources than these guys, so I definitely like them to be able to run the length of the race. And Michael Annett actually has been performing very well here lately. He's even had a couple of races where he's put up over 35 points, and that just goes to show that he might go a lap down early, but don't worry, guys, because as people make those moves to try to win the race, because it's coming down to the chase time, they're probably going to crash to Michael Annett starting in the, I think, 37th or 38th position.
Yep.
And they do nothing but move up. It's just a perfect storm where he can't get you negative points, and he's so low of a price tag that you can just get awesome with your lineups. You can throw in a Joey Logano and a Kurt Busch, and Ricky Stenhouse, and even Kyle Busch in the same lineup. And It's crazy the things you can do if you put Michael Annett on your team. And he hasn't really disappointed. Sick last week and not in the car. I know he's feeling better this weekend and ready to get back out there and perform well for his team. Michael Annett is, if I'm at the bottom of the barrel and I'm really reaching down there, Michael Annett and Brian Scott are my two really, really cheap options.
Liehr, we know you're a little higher on McDowell than you are Annett, but what do you think of the play?
Well, just real quick, I'm disappointed because I also like Brian Scott, so I was AW throwing him out there. But no, Brian Scott is definitely at $5,200. I like him too. He's starting from the 30th position. But as far as Michael Annett, he's only $4,800, so it just gives you a ton of options what you can do with your upper guys there. But also too, Landon Castle is one of those guys as well that had a really good week last week. Now, obviously, we're a completely different track type, but he's only $5,600 this week, which is only a couple $100 more than McDowell, and he's starting from the 33rd position. You've got all these guys there in that bottom tier there, and it's really you're kind of just throwing darts at the dartboard and seeing who's going to come out on top. But it's all about doing the research and trying to find out what exactly what they've got in store. But Annett's got some pretty good statistics here. Average starter 37th and average finish 30th. So as long as he can get that place differential for you, that's going to be the key. And overall, this week we're completely switching from laps led, fastest laps as the premium.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's place differential is the key at this track because we have a lot less laps. So,
all right. Well, that said, it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's the Going to the Garage segment. This is where we get to talk trash on drivers, on teams, on cars. Maybe we're just talking trash on DraftKings pricing because we don't like the way they priced the guy this week. Guys, what's it going to be? Who are we talking trash on? Adrian, who do we got going to the garage?
Well, I hate that you phrase it as talking trash because this guy is one of my top 5 favorites. But this week I'm taking young Ryan Blaney in the number 21 Motorcraft Ford. He's 7,400, and he's starting in the 7th position, guys. It just seems like an overqualification for me a little bit. At that price tag, I'm going to reach down and play guys like Greg Biffle and Ricky Stenhouse, have a lot more potential to move up, and that guys are not too worried about getting negative points. And the problem with also that I really wanted to point out about him starting in the 7th position is, in the last 11 races, he only has one top 10 in 2016. So he's really just not producing at the level you need him to. And that one top 10 he had was still have gotten you negative 3 points when he finished 10th. So it's just not a play that I find myself making. I think Ryan and that team are going to be really fast. They were really fast at Bristol this weekend until they got involved in that wreck. It's just the reason that I'm going to send Ryan Blaney to the garage is not because I think that he's actually going to crash. It's just because there are other options on the board. His great qualifying effort. Congratulations to that team. Great qualifying effort causes him to just be a play that has no positive potential. So it's just not something I'm going to make in a cheap piece.
Yeah, exactly. And I hate that we're talking about him going to the garage 2 weeks in a row because I really do like Ryan Blaney. And by the way, now I do know what YRB means. But anyways, I definitely like Ryan Blaney as far as a driver. I think he's got a bright future here in our sport. But as far as that goes this week, it's just a overqualification again. 2 weeks in a row, and that's great. They're obviously qualifying high, but I just with his track history here too, he's only got 3 races, but he's got an average start of 9th with an average finish of over 20th. So that's negative point land there. So I just can't do it this week. And especially at that price, there's just like a ton of other options. I know he went down in price a little bit, $400, but there's other drivers here that have a lot more ability to score a lot more points when it comes to fantasy than Ryan Blaney this week. So I'm definitely right there with you. I'm not playing any Ryan Blaney at all.
Yeah, no, congratulations to a team for appeasing B time and qualifying high. But for DFS purposes, that's not what we want with him. And I agree with you. Unfortunately, as one of the guys, up and comers that I'm rooting for, I can't play him this week. That's just where I'm at. Liehr, who's your guy to send to the garage? Are you going to actually talk trash? Or are you going to cop out because Adrian's such a super fan of NASCAR, he can't talk trash on anybody other than Tony Stewart?
Well,
I love all my drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those guys. It's hard to talk trash on, these guys that make this for their living and try to give their best effort each week. But unfortunately, we have to pick one person out of the pack to make them our going to the garage. And this week, unfortunately, I'm going to be picking a local Missouri guy, but picking up with my other fellow Jamie Mack and his Ganassi racing team. They had a nice week last week at Bristol. He started 28th and finished 8th for 58 fantasy points. So one of those guys you had to have last week to take down the tournaments. But he's had a ton of starts here at Michigan. He's got 27 starts. He's got 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 6 top 10s. Out of all those races, J-Max only started in the top 10 2 times out of 27 times. He only started in the top 10. And both of those times he started, he finished outside of the top 10, by the way. So this week he's starting from the 8th spot. His cost is the same as last week. It's $7,600. The only difference here is obviously he's starting way too high. And for a quote-unquote value driver, he will not be providing any value for your $7,600 this week. So there's way too many other options out there for the $7,600, right there in that same spot that we were talking about for Blaney. But there's just too many other options a little bit farther north and a little bit south of that price point. I would much rather have Ricky Stenhouse than, Jamie Mack this week. But that is my choice for going to the garage. And so my advice to you is don't take any of the McDonald's this week.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, and I think the one thing that you left out, because as you're drinking McDonald's, well done, Liehr. The one thing you left out is I think that for the casual DFS NASCAR player is, once again, this is going to be somebody that has an astronomically high ownership percentage, and they're not going to understand how he generated those points last week. And I think it's just an easy fade that a lot of people are going to be on that you can easily avoid and not have to worry about. Adrian?
I couldn't agree more. Last weekend, he was definitely the play, starting as far back as he did. And I had a lot of exposure to Jamie McMurray, and he made me a decent amount of money. I want to thank Jamie for that. Sorry that we have to send you to the garage this weekend. But just another great qualifying effort. Both of the nasty guys, they qualified very well this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys need to find a way to win, be it on field strategy or something like that. This is a big race for those guys. Jamie McMurray, I think he'll have a good week. I think he'll finish around the top 15. But like Jamie stated, there's just too many other better options where you can save money. And the problem when you start picking those guys that start creeping over 7K is you really have to start making some decisions, and some of the guys above 9K are not going to fit into your lineups quite as well as if you're playing guys like the guy that drops 6 car is fighting to get into the chase. I think he's also a good play.
I agree with that. And that takes me into my going to the garage play, which is Alex Bowman. And look, I'm not going to talk trash on Bowman because I actually like the kid and I think he's got a lot of talent. And when you put him in, he can do a lot behind the wheel. But guys, the first reason I'm off of him is DraftKings overpriced the crap out of him. 8,100 for Alex Bowman. Like, what in the world are you thinking? I'm sorry. Like, I love me some DraftKings sometimes, but like they are not infallible, and this is an egregious error, in my opinion. The second reason why I'm not on him, and this I'm going to talk trash, and I'm going to talk trash on Hendrick Motorsports. They have let us down from a fantasy perspective all year long. And every time, and I did this with Jeff Gordon, I've done it with Jimmy multiple times. Every time I tried, the only one that hasn't was Chase at the beginning of the year. But since then, he's even let us down. The problem is that Hendrick just has not been where they're supposed to be as a racing team. I have problems doing it with the best driver, arguably in the history of NASCAR, and Jimmie Johnson, with what he was able to win back to back, right? I think I got them all in there, right?
and then some.
When that guy is having problems, like, I'm not going to take a call-up driver, especially one that overqualified, and that's the final reason. Guys, he qualified 6th. I don't have him even being a top 10 car, much less being, like, anywhere running to lead laps. It's just, guys, not only are you risking negative points here, but you're having to pay a premium for it. Just the easiest fade in the world, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more with the showman. And that's part of what got him this great opportunity with, Hendrick Motorsports driving to the number 88 for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Also want to, from all of us, extend our thoughts out to Dale Jr. We hope you're doing well, bud. We look forward to seeing you back at the track so we can throw you on our fantasy roster some more in 2016. But Alex Bowman is just he's in a great opportunity, and the problem is he's starting 6th. And DraftKings did overprice him, like you said. but I just think he just has so much pressure on him. I mean, this is a lot for this guy. If you really think about it, right on this race, because you have so many eyes watching him in the 88 car, and he might not be able to run that car for the rest of the season or ever again, or ever be in that bit of equipment in the Cup Series again. So he really wants to go out there and perform well. We really, all of us, wish him the best. But from a fantasy perspective, starting in the 6th position with all the fast cars like the Gibbs Toyotas and all those guys who are starting behind him, I just don't think he's going to accrue any positive points. And that's just where we're at on Bowman. That's where we're at on Blaney, and that's where we're at on Jamie McMurray. It's just
Right.
when you look at the lineups, you can just see certain guys that just aren't going to fit into your lineups. And these guys congratulations to them, but when you're building lineups, you kind of don't want to pick that many guys in the top 10, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, you're talking about pressure and all the eyes on him. It's one of those things where he literally is gone out there and qualified in the top 10 with one of the top vehicles out there on the circuit, the number 88, and what that represents. And he's racing for the biggest name in NASCAR. You don't think that kid's got pressure on him to perform well? I mean, unless Mr. Hendrick's gone in the back and said, hey, don't worry about this weekend. We need you to fill in just for this week so we can get Jeff Gordon back in the car next week. But still, he wants to, he's prideful. He's a NASCAR driver. He wants to do well. And he just, with his overqualification here, it's just set up for failure as far as fantasy goes. He's just somebody I can't take. And, I was talking to Poppa about it, but I mean, $8,100 DraftKings, I have no idea what you're thinking when you're pricing somebody like that. And if you, who knows? If you want to go out there and be on an island and get a 0.01% ownership percentage on somebody, best of luck to you. But I think a lot of the players out there are going to be smart enough to say, it's too much money, qualified too high. I'm not playing this guy. But, let's not forget either. This isn't Alex Bowman's first go-round at Michigan or in the Sprint Cup Series. He was also full-time with BK Racing and then also Tommy Baldwin, and so he's raced here 4 times in the last 2 years. All of them, though, are, not good finishes. So he had a, start of 41 and 40th, 32nd, finished 26th, started 28th, finished 41st, started 33rd, finished 31st. So nothing but negative point land here for Alex Bowman and your $8,100. So my advice is I hope all you guys out there play him and, play as much as you can of them. And we'll be back here watching the race on Sunday, and we'll enjoy every second of it.
Well, guys, the real problem is.
Hey, but those fans at Michigan are really. I was going to say those fans at Michigan are really going to be pulling for that car with that University of Michigan team on. So you might upset some people.
I forgot to mention that. Not only that, but they have the Wolverines on the vehicle this weekend. I couldn't despise this car anymore.
Well, look, wow, I have to compose myself after that. Guys, the issue here is that those cars have been so off this year that Jeff Gordon, who's my favorite driver of all time and arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, couldn't get it done in that car. I just don't think Alex Bowman can at that price either. It just screams negative points. With that said, it's time for us to get into picking a lineup with everybody. This is a segment that we are really proud of here, where we go through and show you an actual lineup that will be in the 20K lug nut this weekend, the $5 contest there on DraftKings. Guys, I think we're pretty much in agreement. We're going to start this one off with Joey Bag of Donuts, right?
Oh, Joey Logano for sure.
Or is Liehr shaking his head? I can't see.
Yes,
okay.
I agree.
I think it's just the most obvious play from a position of having the first pit stall, like we said, in the laps led and fastest laps guaranteed.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
All right, guys, where are we going next? Who wants the next pick?
Don't we? You really didn't talk about it, or you didn't venture into JGR country.
I hit on them and told you why I wanted to play them. They're just place differential plays. They all underqualified, man. There's not much more to say than the fact that they're just, how good JGR is. They all underqualified. And
you just got to pick which one you think is going to move up through the field and maybe lead laps. And it's a coin toss.
Right, unless you're going to go contrarian and say all of them are going to do it, which I have no problem doing. I'll probably have a lineup that does that. You know me. But
in my opinion, out of all of the JGR guys, I think Martin Truex Jr. is probably my favorite. It's just kind of how it is this week.
Yeah, and he's fast.
But I wouldn't necessarily say that. He's fastest in first practice. I wouldn't necessarily say we need to put him on this team. I'd really like to, if I can go ahead and make a pick, I'd like to just go ahead and throw Ricky Stenhouse on the team.
Dude, I was just going to say that.
All right, well, since you both are just saying that,
my guy.
That'll take care of both of your all picks, and I'll go. All right, so we're putting sticky yet zesty clean Ricky on
Yes.
on that lineup.
He's going to be the glue that holds your lineup together. That's why they call him Sticky Ricky, because he's the glue that holds
There
your
you
lineup
go.
together.
There you go. Dude, guys, I'm sorry. We need to put Kurt Busch on this team.
Couldn't agree more. You took my pick. All right.
Liehr, since we both kind of like stepped on your picks, like go ahead. Who would you put on this team at this point in time? We have 7,933 left with the 3 remaining picks. We're at Logano, Stenhouse, Kurt Busch.
Wow.
All right. Well, let's just since you're reaching down, let's go ahead and just throw Annett since we talked about him.
For reaching down, I'm picking. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good.
That way, all right. So see, when you put Annett, and if you put Annett and Stenhouse on the team, you basically have access to anyone you want. Like we have 9,500 remaining for the last 2 drivers, right? So we can spend up and get another one of the guys in the 10s if we wanted Keselowski, Harvick, or Busch, or we can spend down and be just comfortable and buy the Truex and Hamlin or Elliott somewhere in there, like depending on what you guys want to do. Adrian, which direction should we go in?
It's such a tough situation to be in. It's just a tough situation to be in because I think there's 2 ways to look at it right here. Is the fact that once you put Michael Annett on the team, you're in a situation where you could, have a wide open lineup, and you think the rest of this lineup is chalk, with Logano and Stenhouse and Kurt Busch, and we think those are going to be the guys that everyone played. But this is kind of the perfect situation to kind of get away from that, guys. So if you're looking at the board and we have 9,500 left, you have your guys that we've talked about, Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski. This is basically the chance in your lineup where you're going to look at it and you're going to say, okay, who do I think is going to lead laps other than Joey Logano? And maybe that's where you throw someone like that on here. Say that we just throw Martin Truex Jr. on the lineup just to show you that there is just $9,100 left. And what this lets you do is it lets you have Denny Hamlin on down. And this is where your lineups can get really different from everyone else. Is you can basically pick from Denny Hamlin on down and pick anyone, and there's really not that many bad picks right there. I really like Austin Dillon starting 17th.
No, that's what I was just going to say. Like,
there. And, the more money you leave on the table, the more money you leave on the table, the more wide open it's going to get, and the less people, because people aren't going to leave. If you put Austin Dillon on there, you got 1,200 left on the table. People aren't going to leave that kind of money. I don't think that we necessarily need to do that for this lineup. Maybe we could take that money if we put Austin Dillon on there and maybe upgrade Michael Annett.
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you. I definitely like Austin Dillon this week too. He's right now sitting 11th in the chase, and he's the top driver without a win so far. So and his price point is really good too, $7,900. So I'm right there with you. I love the old Austin Dillon this week.
You have $1,200 to upgrade Annett. That puts you at $6,000 total to spend on Annett, or you can commit to Annett and spend that money and get off of Sticky Ricky, and that gets you up to $7,900. Those are your options.
In my opinion, I'm not gonna. Nope. Yeah. In my opinion, no matter what, we're not taking Stenhouse off.
I agree. I just wanted.
I think is the best play on.
Right, but I just wanted to talk about it for our viewers so they could see that is an option.
Well, don't tell them to do the wrong thing, Poppa.
I'm not. I'm just saying, dude. Come on, man. You're not gonna as much as I love the Stenhouse play this week. There's zero chance I'm going 100% on it. He's too volatile for that. I might be 70, 80% on it.
I'm not gonna go 100% on it. Okay. Well, what we were just talking about, we threw Truex on the team. What do you guys think about maybe throwing Kevin Harvick and Austin Dillon on the team? I really like that combination.
Yeah.
Instead of Truex, we go up to Harvick.
Instead of Truex, Harvick on there.
All right. Well,
I think that's really beautiful because Kevin Harvick that team has just been so fast, and they have so much momentum from last week.
Oh, yeah.
I should have probably covered it, talking about Kurt Busch, but that Ford team, man, they just bring the heat every week, man.
Yeah, you know what? We'll swap that out, and that'll be the lineup that everybody gets to see for a contest. So just to cover it really quickly, it's Logano, Stenhouse Jr., Kurt Busch, Annett, Harvick, Austin Dillon with $400 in the bank. And guys, I know we didn't talk about him much because we run out of time, but both Adrian and I are on that Austin Dillon play. That basically row 9 is row 8, 9 have some sexy players in it this week. So with that said, guys, let's wrap up the show. Let's wrap up this week's show. I think it was a good one. Adrian, say your goodbyes, bud.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Seeing our show last week's, gaining a lot of steam with the view count. We're getting up over 400, I think, on last week's show. Let's try to push that number over 500 this week. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let all your friends know they're playing DFS. That let them know that you watch this show, and let them know that you want to share with your friends, so that all your friends can win money with us. But yet again, thanks for watching. You guys are a very loyal, following that we have. And we appreciate every single one of you, and we do it for you.
Heck yeah. Liehr, say your goodbyes. Make them quick. We're running long.
All right, everybody. I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully, all of our picks will come to fruition again like they did last week. And then just make sure if you guys have any questions or anything like that, want to run anything by us, you can hit us up on the YouTube page, fantasydonks.com. You can also send us a Twitter, which is on the front of the intro. But have a great weekend, guys. I'm excited. I just started a 10-day vacation from work, so I'm going to be enjoying some time with the family and just soaking in some NASCAR and some preseason football, and just going to soak it all in.
Dude, there is nothing better than watching you in that trucker's NASCAR hat talking about hitting us up on the Twitter. Feel free to tweet us, guys. Like that, I was just saying that was a perfect moment, Liehr. I loved it. Hit us up on the Twitter. Tweet us out, kids. Leave a comment on YouTube or subscribe, and make sure you get subscribed, guys. That way you get an alert every time we get it posted. Thanks again for joining us. We do this for our love of NASCAR, daily fantasy sports, and to help you guys out. We love having you guys involved. Have a good one, guys. Thanks again.
Have a great weekend, everybody.